How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Ganji. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Now, on Tier Talk, we usually focus on corrections, what happens behind the wall, the policies, the culture, the daily challenges for staff. But every once in a while, we touch on true crime. And I know many of you in our audience connect with these stories as well. So that's why this case right here caught my attention. It's a mix of true crime and corrections. The story of a convicted serial killer who may be trying to profit from his crimes while serving multiple life sentences. I thought it was the perfect chance to explore a case that blends both worlds. So here's what I'm going to do. I want to show you a video real quick that I came across first. Then we'll come back and break it down, and I'll give you my perspective on what I feel is happening. Okay, so let's play this video. Bear with me.
Investigates obtaining new material autographed by a convicted serial killer who we discovered looks to be trying to profit off his crimes. Our investigative team exposed messages sent from Todd Kohlhepp's prison-issued tablet. A news source coming forward with some of the items they say Kohlhepp wanted them to sell. Fox Carolina's Brooklyn Cromer has been digging into this since we first exposed the plans to profit from pain.
Well, Tori, after our first story aired, a viewer reached out to me and turned over autographed documents Kohlhepp made behind bars, all of it signed and marked with his thumbprint. The viewer told Fox Carolina Kohlhepp sent her this material with the intention of selling it. Nearly a decade after a serial killer's conviction, he continues to victimize the families who lost their loved ones. They now face a new nightmare as he attempts to profit from their pain. I sifted through hundreds of pages of this material. Hand-drawn artwork, photographs, and copies of his 7 victims' autopsy reports, all signed and stamped with his thumbprint and intended for sale. After our initial investigation exposed what appears to be Todd Kohlhepp's attempts to monetize his crimes, a source with knowledge of his plan handed over the envelopes he sent from prison. Inside this envelope, his written confession admitting to 4 murders at Superbike Motorsports in Spartanburg County in 2003. An autographed copy of the shop's business card also buried inside the files. We found items related to his later crimes too. The back of a photograph showing the land where 3 victims were murdered reads, "Jump my fence, I catch you, I keep you." This is the property in Spartanburg County where those victims were killed between 2015 and 2016. Lawsuits, warrants, and victim profiles also permanently marked with his name in ink. The back of a picture from one of his court appearances inscribed, "Not amused at all." Fox Carolina obtained messages Kohlhepp sent from a prison-issued tablet through an open records request with the Department of Corrections. Messages like this one show his attempts to make money from behind bars. "I've been working on some ideas that should hopefully make me some money." In other messages, he talks about having Todd Kohlhepp serial killer t-shirts, patches, and stickers made. One person messages him, "I wish that you were in a better dorm. That way you could scout more artists for the site. More artists, more potential money." We've obtained some of the artwork Kohlhepp made in attempts of financial gain. Stenciled quotes like these sell for up to $65 on true crime merchandise sites. We alerted the Department of Corrections after we obtained these items he planned to sell in an attempt to cash in on evil. The Department of Corrections confirms our story prompted an internal investigation. Kohlhepp is now sitting in a max security prison, moved to the most secure cell block in the state. The DOC says he's now being punished for abusing privileges and violating institution rules. He lost canteen privileges and visitation privileges each for 30 days. Officials also confirm his tablet has been revoked indefinitely. He can now face new criminal charges as a result of our reporting. The Office of Inspector General is now investigating what we uncovered. The criminal investigation is still pending.
So I think that's a great move by South Carolina Department of Corrections to hold this inmate accountable. Hopefully there will be criminal charges. Sadly, because there is an uptick in true crime, especially with the recent podcasts, YouTube channels, all this stuff, there is a heightened interest. And sometimes old cases get brought to the forefront and people are making money off of this. So those that have committed crimes have a chance to use that as leverage. So another thing also is that sometimes these true crime podcasts, in an effort to bring knowledge to the people on the outside. Sometimes they create someone that people tend to be a fan of. That's another scary part. We have some twisted people in this world, and there are some people that wind up really wanting to be a fan of these individuals and collecting stuff that they may have owned or put their physical imprint on. So in this case here, this inmate here is taking advantage of that and trying to make profit off of it. If you guys are probably aware of this, the Son of Sam law, I have it little broken down here, but the Son of Sam law came about in 1977 from the killing that Dave Berkowitz was charged with. And basically he tried to make profit, and, was books or movies or whatnot. And then they basically said, you cannot make profit from crime. So it's named after David Berkowitz, Son of Sam, who tried to profit from selling his crime story in the late 1970s. So the goal of the Son of Sam law is to stop convicted criminals from making money off the publicity of their crime. So books, movies, interviews, merchandise. How it works is typically requires any money earned from a crime story to be frozen or redirected to victims, often through civil suits and challenges. Courts struck down overly broad versions because they violated free speech rights. And that's a unique aspect, because there are some concerns where they believe that inmates are allowed to have free speech. Therefore, you can't limit them from having interviews or telling their story. That's a violation of their rights. But with that said, I just want to mention something. It's funny because when we look at rights, we look at it a way to protect individuals. But when there are people that try to get over the system or try to circumvent the system, they look at rules differently. They try to manipulate. They try to see how it can only benefit them. So basically, it's no longer about protecting everyone, but rather how can they exploit it. And they try to hold things specifically to what is written, when at the end of the day, the world is very fluid. Even though we do have things that are written, there has to be some level of safe discretion in how it is utilized, because at the end of the day, if something is really written and solidified in stone, it can easily be turned against us if someone is trying to manipulate it with bad intent. And it's funny because sometimes the rights of one can truly affect the rights of many. So in this case here, he wants to, let's say, put out a story or publish his book over the crimes that he's done, which could affect the victims or the people that have been hurt by those crimes. So now you're benefiting off of what you've taken away from us. So not only do we suffer the physical loss, now you're giving us a whole nother loss that we have to deal with. There's just no closure. So with that said, I believe in people's rights, don't get me wrong, but sometimes there's always a concern where someone can manipulate that and now affect the rights of other individuals. Now, South Carolina has the same type of law, but it's called Notoriety for Profit Act. And it's codified in South Carolina code. And it covers any profits gained from the commission of a crime or from unique knowledge obtained during it. Applies to contracts involving books, films, documentaries, merchandise, and speeches, and includes property or money obtained directly or indirectly from the crime's notoriety. So these are people that are really profiting off the crime itself. So the offender must file a copy of any profit-related contract with the State Office of Victims Assistance, and the filing triggers victim notification so they can take legal action. Victim rights, this is why this law is put in place. Victims can file a civil lawsuit to claim up to the full value of profits made. They can recover money, damages, and often without having to prove new harm, just that profit stems from the crime. And the state enforcement power, civil penalties for offenders who fail to report, it's $10,000 minimum or up to 3 times the contract value. States can freeze funds until victim claims are resolved. And the time frame, victims have a set period, usually several years after learning of the profit, to bring a claim. The clock starts when the state notifies them of the profit opportunity. And there's some loopholes here. Third-party profits. If friends, family, or business partners run the merchandise or media deals and the inmate doesn't directly get paid, it's harder to enforce. So think of that. Indirect benefits laws don't always cover benefits like influence, publicity, leverage, or bartering for better prison conditions, which in this case here, he's trying to use this to get a prison transfer. And monitoring gap. Enforcement depends on prison officials or victims discovering the contract. If it's hidden, the law is hard to trigger, and state by state only applies in South Carolina unless other states cooperate under interstate compacts. So again, with this, obviously it's funny because he thinks that he could do this, raise money for a prison transfer. Well, prison transfers aren't up to you. They're not. So that's up to what the state decides and contract with another state or another facility. And it's usually done for safety and security reasons, not because you choose to go to another facility. I do like the fact that they took his tablet away. Now, there are some people who are like, well, how can they get tablets? How can they have online access? Guys, it's very controlled. The tablets, when they send out emails, it's no different than them sending out snail mail, regular mail. I actually think the benefit of this is that this mail can actually be monitored. It can be recovered. So in this case here, they're able to recover a lot of the messages that he sent out because he did it digitally. So they can pull back and they can get what they need to build their case, where if this was mailed out, that would be harder for them to get a hold of. So it's good to see that he was actually dumb enough to use the digital system. It actually proves to have better tracking. Now, granted, these systems do have like a search query, and some people are aware of the words that cause the system to kind of trigger those words, which will then send a notification to investigative divisions, admin or whatnot. So they usually work around those words. So they kind of talk like in a coded language. But with that said, once there's an opening, in this case here, when the media from South Carolina, Fox, investigative division of the media, whatever it is, when they notified the South Carolina Department of Corrections, they were able now to act and then go back to see what type of communications he's been having, whether it's through the digital, through the JPay system, the digital emails, or whether it's through phone conversations. So this was actually good to keep record of and build their case against him. But what I want to mention here, just on another note, is this really is someone that is manipulating the system. So again, I know we mentioned the concerns about the First Amendment rights. Anything that's put in paper is always put, hopefully, let's say, for good intent, but always can be manipulated by people that see things differently. Again, we see things in an effort to protect. They see things in an effort to exploit. So you have to always be wary of where that balance is. And that's what we do in corrections. Why people worry about the one, we worry about the many. Advocates may come in and worry about the one person or the family members or the lawyers, but we're sitting here and say, well, hey, I get that, but there's also many others here. And we have to make sure that we keep everything as fair, as consistent as possible. And this also shows you the mind of someone who is extremely narcissistic. They said when he committed his crimes, even the one back in 2003 with the motocross, it was because he felt humiliated when he believed they laughed at him when he fell off his bike. And then the mother had given an excuse. Well, this is why you can't teach people to bully. I mean, that's what I read. That's just more of enabling that bad behavior and then being able to blame society for what your son did. And then later on, I believe there was a remark he said about Caleb Brown's boyfriend saying smart mouth. So he got killed because he had a smart mouth. So this is someone that is very insecure at some extent, but then also very highly narcissistic, because at this point, to believe that he can market what he has, being the serial killer, and let me market my some shirts, some logos, some stuff related to the case, because it's probably within his discovery. So he's probably making copies somehow or whatnot, and then putting his imprint on certain things. And there are people, as I said, that have become fans, depending on how popular the case is or how they connect to the individual, that they pay good money for this. And I think this person is taking advantage of it. I think true crime is good to get out there and give people information. But if you are falling in love with these individuals or wanting to spend money as if this is collectibles, what's wrong with us? It's great to have this network where we could stay connected and communicate and share thoughts so we can be more aware of what's around us and how to help if needed. But to sit there and become a fan, or to sit there and further motivate these monsters behind the wall to continue doing what they do, to ultimately to continue to disrespect the victims who've been through enough. Come on, guys. We have to do better than that. But I thought this was just a quick little thing. Thought you guys would be interested. It was murder for profit. The Todd Kohlhepp prison scandal. The Todd Kohlhepp prison scandal. But I thought you guys would find this a bit interesting. Just some news that I found along the way that I wanted to throw your way. We'd love to get your thoughts, but prison for profit. Technically, that's what it is. You commit a crime and then you make money off it. How sick is that? It's just having the victims just relive everything over and over again. It's just so disrespectful. It's what we deal with every day. As always, guys, the show is Tear Talk. Stay safe.